From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Dennis's Heating and Air Conditioning is Northern California's premier heating and air conditioning contractor. From residential housing, large commercial projects, installation to repair, sheet metal fabrication, and everything in between, we are your go-to heating and air conditioning specialist.
Well, it's Monday. We're getting ready for another work week. Boy, what a weekend. I mean, gorgeous Saturday. Sunday it was kind of one of those gloomy days. Certainly got to see some needed rainfall in some areas, and certainly a cooler start to, or should we say the end to the weekend, with temperatures not warming up a whole lot. So here's what we've got. Here's the deal. Here's what's going on as we go through the week. We've got dry and warmer conditions to start off the week. Things have already dried out here this morning, and that'll be the case here for at least the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, it's going to be cooler and unsettled by the time we get to the middle of the week, toward the end of the week. What that essentially means is, yeah, temperatures are not going to warm up a whole lot. We're going to be looking at a slight chance for showers in there, but overall, I'm just not seeing anything all that organized, and quite honestly, even that impressive. But that being said, cooler air is moving in, and we may start to see some of the lowest snow levels we've seen so far for the season. Nothing to be concerned about. I'm not expecting any travel concerns. I'm not expecting elevations to be so low that it's going to create problems. But, you know, maybe around 5,000 feet, give or take, is what we could be looking at by Wednesday and into the end of the week. So how do we do with the rainfall totals? Well, as I mentioned, and this is something that we have to really kind of keep in mind, is when I say overall not a lot of rainfall, take a look at the rainfall amounts. Overall, we didn't see much, but there were a few spots that saw some decent amounts of rainfall. So for those of you that saw a lot of rainfall, yeah, when I say we're not going to see a lot of rain, you're thinking, well, what was he talking about? I saw a ton of it. Well, you did in Crescent City. But in Wairika, you only saw 300 of an inch of rainfall. See, that's where things get tricky when you've got to cover a big area in so many microclimates, right? When I start talking about these expressions about overall or the average, right, that's what you have to kind of look at. And each particular area will have its own little story. And again, that's where things get really tricky around here. That's what makes the North State so wonderful, right? We all have our own little stories. All right, so again, look at Crescent City, 1.12. Look at Corning, about 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to head too far north. Red Bluff, you only saw about 300, so about 1,200 out at the Redding Airport. But look at that, about 1/2 an inch out in parts of Chico. Take out to Willows, look at that, 0.8. But really not much to speak of off to the north and east, and not to mention even in the eastern mountains. All right, so again, it just depends on where you were during this event yesterday. All right, here's what we have in store for us today. This is what it looks like. Temperatures getting up to about 80 this afternoon here for the valley. You've got Siskiyou, Modoc County in the low 60s, and we take you off into the eastern mountains, temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. All right, let's take you off to the north coast, and there you can see some of the fog out there this morning, the low clouds, maybe even a little bit of drizzle out there too. Otherwise, temperatures upper 50s, upper 60s to low 70s inland, and that's pretty much the case here as we take you off into Trinity County as well. So there you can see the storm system kind of shifting down to the south right here. That's what brought us the rain and the cooler air. That's moving out. Now it's going to warm up a little bit behind it. Nothing major. We're not expecting a major heat wave. Nothing like what we saw last week. But it is warming up a little bit. But what I have my eyes on is right up here. Okay, and that's for later this week. You see the speckled clouds it's associated with it. A little bit of a spin as well. That's an area of low pressure and cooler air that's going to be pooling down here later on in the week. All right, so let's take a look at Futurecast. Now, again, things are getting tricky with the chances for rain. So let's kind of walk you through it and kind of get you through this here. So here we are today. You've got a couple of high clouds, nothing to really get concerned about. Tuesday, looking pretty good, actually. We're going to see increasing clouds through the day on Tuesday. By Tuesday evening, maybe that cooler air, remember that pocket of cooler air I was talking about that's up to the north, that's now starting to shift southward. So we're beginning to see maybe a chance for showers late in the day on Tuesday up to the north, out towards Del Norte County, Siskiyou County, Modoc County, right? And then as it pushes to the south, you see how we're seeing maybe the potential by Tuesday night into Wednesday maybe a chance for some showers kind of moving on in. Now, what you'll also notice, we're seeing some of that snow off in the Warner Mountains, off into the Trinity Alps, and even in the Marble Mountains, down to about 5,000 feet. Now, I don't anticipate that to be a big problem when it comes to travel, but overall, when we look at the forecast rainfall totals, just depends on where you are. Right now, we can't take any of this to be literal because I don't think any of us are going to see what we're seeing here on this map right here. Some of us may see more than others, but overall, Wednesday is just kind of one of those iffy days. Bottom line, if you have outdoor plans, things you got to do outside for Wednesday, keep a close eye on the forecast because this is going to be changing as we get closer to Wednesday, and not to mention the end of the week. So there's Wednesday. Again, you can see the chance for showers. You've got some of the snow in there as well. Again, around 5,000 feet at its lowest. But look at this. As we go through the rest of the week, it's dry, and we keep it dry through the weekend and even into early next week. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper and tell you what I'm talking about. So there's the cooler air. That was over us yesterday. That moves out, and then that shifts off to the north and east. Now, another pocket of cooler air. This is Wednesday. Now, do we have enough moisture to squeeze out to give us some showers out there? It's a possibility. It's not looking very promising for a lot. All right, and then that actually kind of moves out, but we kind of have this cooler air lingering around, keeping our temperatures at bay and keeping things unsettled. But again, the key to getting rain is if we have enough moisture out there. All right, so I want to show you this. Where you've got these yellows, greens, reds, and oranges, this is where you have moisture. Where you see this here, even some of the blues, this is much drier air. So you can see here, as we progress through time, go into Wednesday, we've got a little sliver of moisture that may be aimed at Northern California. Now, it's not a lot. You're kind of in that mid-range. You're not exactly dry. You're not exactly in the moist air, but you're kind of in between. So there may be just enough moisture to squeeze out for us to see some of those showers we were talking about on Wednesday. So when you look at this pattern, you think, it's just not going to be a lot, and that's probably going to be the case. But look what happens behind that. We see this cool and dry air really begin to move in. Now, you can see to our south, there is some available moisture. So these systems that come through on Thursday and Friday may be able to tap in to a little bit of that moisture, but overall, it doesn't look like it's very promising, especially with that drier air moving in. And then, of course, as we go into the weekend, into next week, now we really get inundated with dry air. There's no moisture anywhere to really tap into. So yes, temperatures are dropping, but the overall availability of moisture at this point is not looking all that great, which is why I don't anticipate to see much in the way of rain. All right, we got through all of that. Wanted to really kind of help explain that to you because you're going to be hearing about throughout the week chances for rain. And that, I think Wednesdays are going to be your best chance. But after that, we're going to have to kind of keep a close eye on things. All right, so here's a look at your wave heights. We're looking at about 10 to 13 feet, pretty high for today. And then as we go into tomorrow, look that those wave heights may begin to drop. Your marine forecast is calling for a small craft advisory, of course, because we do have those fairly large waves out there, even getting closer to the coast as well. What does it look like out there today? Well, it is warming up a little bit. We're going to be hovering around that 80-degree mark in the valley. Looks like in the 60s for most of us in the higher elevations, low to mid 60s really. But as we take you out towards Trinity County, the inland areas, more like the low 70s, and then of course the low to mid 60s out along the coast. All right, so here's your 7-day outlook. What I've done here is I've included the chance for rain for everyone, mainly in the mountains for Wednesday, but drying things out and keeping it dry through the rest of the week, and not to mention this upcoming weekend. And notice how much cooler it is. I mean, we're barely getting out of the 40s for Alturas by the time we get into Thursday and even into Friday. Here's a look at the valley, also dropping. So about 80 today, but temperatures dropping down to the mid-60s with that cooler air moving in. Slight chance for some showers, even as early as Tuesday night and going into Wednesday, but I'm keeping it dry for Thursday through the weekend. But, you know, once the temperatures drop, we're not going to see them go up much. We're going to keep them generally in the low to mid 60s here for Thursday through this upcoming weekend. So get ready for some cooler air to move in and stick around. You think about last week, right? We saw highs in the 90s. Not this week. Here's a look at your 7-day outlook for the North Coast. The showers on Wednesday. And then, of course, it looks like we will dry things out even for Thursday, Friday through the weekend. Also keeping that cooler air in place.